Hey guys, welcome to this video. I appreciate you guys watching this. My name is John Watts. I'm a consumer protection lawyer. We're going to look at another article from myfico.com. And they have some good articles here. And the reason that we want to look and see exactly what FICO is saying is FICO is the dominant scoring model company. And I think it's something like 90% of all decisions made, I'm talking about with consumer credit, made using a scoring model use FICO. So we need to know what they say. And this article is entitled 3 Things to Check on Your Credit Report After Coronavirus Relief. So typically talking here about the CARES Act. And we had a long video back, I don't know, a few weeks after it was passed, talking about what the CARES Act does in terms of credit reporting. And so there should be a link to that, or maybe that's on the screen here with me. This is by Elizabeth Warren, who works at FICO. So there's an Elizabeth Warren who's center. This is the Elizabeth Warren at FICO. And so we definitely want to see what she has to say here. So she's really talking about if you've taken on a forbearance, a deferment, or what the CARES Act calls an accommodation, where your lender, your credit card company, mortgage company, whoever says, you know what, for the next whatever, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, you pay us $1, or you don't have to pay us anything, or you pay a partial payment, whatever they say. What's your credit report supposed to look like? So as I'm recording this, it's October 15th. And so, a lot of people have been several months into the CARES Act accommodation type program. So number one, what Elizabeth Warren suggests is make sure that your account is reporting as current or okay. Now, this would be only if you were current going into that accommodation, okay? So if you're 90 days late when you get an accommodation, a forbearance, a deferment, whatever from your lender, well, then they can continue to report you as 90 days late all the way through. And so let's look at this. She says, if your account status was current when you entered into the forbearance or deferment program, it should continue to be reported as current. That's absolutely correct. And this is under the CARES Act. And so here's the quote. If furnisher, and a furnisher is your lender, your credit card company, whoever's furnishing the information to the credit reporting agencies, makes an accommodation with respect to one or more payments on credit obligation or account of a consumer, and the consumer makes the payments or is not required to make the payments, the furnisher shall report the credit obligation or account as current. And so you want to see something like this: current, okay, or even a check mark. Okay, so it depends on where you pull your credit report. So sometimes you'll see this kind of thing and you just want to say okay, 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 not 30 or 60 or 90 or charge off or anything like that, assuming you were current going into the accommodation. So this will typically be from like TransUnion here. And again, you want to see okay. Others, you'll get these check marks. That's what you want to see. Now, what Elizabeth Warren says is make sure about, is there an AW comment code? Now, let me say this about these codes. This is under what's called Metro 2, okay? So think about it this way. You've got the furnishers, and there's thousands of furnishers. They all have their own computer systems. And then you have the credit bureaus over here. So you have the furnishers and the credit bureaus. Well, the credit bureaus, so I'm talking about Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, Innovis, companies like this, they don't want to have to get the data in 10,000 different formats. So there's this thing called Metro 2. And all that is, sometimes it sort of has this mythical standing or mythical view in the credit repair world. There's nothing magical about it. It's just kind of like a PDF, right? We say, here's a PDF. Doesn't matter what type of computer you have, you can open a PDF. That's all Metro 2 is. It's just saying, put it in a standard format so that the furnishers over here, they put all their information into Metro 2 format, goes to the credit bureaus. Now the credit bureaus can understand what they're saying. Well, they use different codes. So like an AU code is a delete code. Well, what's an AW code? So here, Elizabeth Warren says comment codes, and these can be narrative codes, remark codes, or standardized sets of codes used by lenders and credit bureaus provide further details. And she points out there are dozens of them. But there's a couple that she wants us to focus on here. Okay. And she says, look, you probably won't see the actual code. And that's right. I mean, the code is in Metro 2, and then the credit bureaus convert that code into text. Okay. And so one code is AW, and it means affected by natural or declared disaster. Okay. So that'll come up like, here's some of the actual text: affected by natural declared disaster, or affected by natural disaster, or affected by natural / declared disaster. And that can be things like Hurricane Katrina, and some lenders are using it for the coronavirus. And she says, look, this code alone is not considered negative. Just having an AW code is not negative. But other information about your account is still being looked at to come up with the score. So if your account's delinquent, then that AW comment code will not cause the delinquency to be ignored. But if you are current, then your account status should continue to be reported as current. Remember, that's the deal with the CARES Act. You come into the accommodation, whatever your situation is right here, it should be frozen during that accommodation period, assuming you're doing whatever the accommodation requires of you. So if you're current coming in, it should always be current. If you're 30 days late coming in, it should always be 30 days late. And so she says, look, if you're current and your credit report is showing your account status as delinquent with an AW comment, it could negatively affect your FICO scores. And look, that's just true because it shouldn't be reporting as negative. Okay, it doesn't matter what code they're using. If you're current coming into the accommodation, you get the accommodation. And again, accommodation could be forbearance, deferment, it could be a partial payment, whatever they tell you to pay us $1. It doesn't matter what they say. Any accommodation will work. As long as you follow that, they should be reporting you as current, not negative. And then she says there are a handful of other comment codes that may be reported that are also not considered negative. So she says, look, CP, account in forbearance, CN, loan modified, CO, loan modified, loan modified. So the bottom line is you want to make sure that the reporting is current. They are required under the CARES Act. If you go into the accommodation, excuse me, if you go into the accommodations current, they're required to continue to report you as current as if you're making the payments. Okay, now it doesn't literally reduce your balance, okay, because you're not physically making the payments. So if you see anything that looks negative, then I would dispute that. Now, the last thing that she mentions is this AC comment code, and that stands for paying under a partial payment agreement. Okay, and it could literally say that, and it could say paying under partial or modified payment. And she says, while it sounds like this comment code could apply to forbearance or deferment programs due to coronavirus, it is not the right code. Okay, so you need to dispute that. So the AC code is used to describe situations where you have an agreed upon repayment plan where the payments are less than the amount specified and not used for the coronavirus relief program. So again, let me give you a solid example. Your mortgage is $1,500 a month. And if it's a federally backed loan, you automatically can get the CARES Act forbearance, and we have another video on that. But let's say it's not a federally backed loan, but your lender says, you know what, we recognize you're going through a hard time. Tell you what, instead of paying $1,500, why don't you pay us $500 a month? That will be our accommodation for the next 12 months. Great. So you're paying $500. If they code it with this AC code, which again, you're not going to see the codes on your credit reports, but you'll see this language up here, paying under partial payment agreement, stuff like that. That is wrong because that's going to come up as a negative. Okay? You're not paying under a partial payment agreement. You're under this CARES Act, this federal law, which literally changed the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So we're not talking about Metro 2 or looking at their user manual or anything like that. We're talking about the literal Fair Credit Reporting Act was changed by the CARES Act. It says if you get an accommodation and you are current going in, they have to report you as current. Doing what we see here on the screen, that is not right. So you would want to dispute that. And then she points out about getting your credit report. All 3 credit reports you get once per year for free, but they're now offering weekly online reports until April of 21, and you go to annualcreditreport.com. And I think I've shown this before, but let me just click over here. You see this box that comes up, accessing your credit is important. That's why Equifax Experian Trade Union now offering free weekly online credit reports through April of 21. Now, we're occasionally running into people that they're getting a message like, you're not eligible for this because you've already pulled yours for the year. I would just try again, maybe same day or next day, or call, and you can do this, contact us. I think this has the phone number. This has where you can write to them, and let's see. Yeah, I think I know the phone number. I'll put that in a comment. If I don't do that, just remind me, and I'll put that in a comment. But there's a phone number you can call to get this, or just check it out again, maybe the next day to pull those reports. But going back to this MyFICO, again, the reason I like this is this is the information you can see here. She's a product manager for MyFICO. The advantage of getting information from MyFICO is they are telling us what affects your scores. Okay, so now when they start talking about here's what the Fair Credit Reporting Act requires, or here's when you can dispute or you can't dispute, that may or may not be correct. Generally, it's correct, but their specialty is the score. And so if they tell you you do this and that will lower your score, guess what? If you do that, that will lower your score. If they say, hey, if you do this, it'll raise your score, that's a pretty good indication. So we're kind of going straight to the source here because they determine our FICO score, because this is FICO, and so it makes sense to listen to them. So we'll do some more of these. Let me know if you like these, and I'll definitely do more, but certainly check them out, and I'll put the link to this article in the description or in a comment. Okay, guys, have a good one. Bye-bye.